Do survival maps matter in Call of Duty Zombies? And should they make the return to the mode, whether in Black Ops 6 or even in other potential future entries past Black Ops 6? And when I say survival maps, I'm not just talking about round-based maps as a whole, or even smaller maps. I'm specifically talking about when you have a bigger zombies map that has sections of it that are isolated, removed, and then turned into their own smaller zombies map independent of that map that they stem from. Let me explain. Survival maps made their initial debut into Call of Duty Zombies and Call of Duty Black Ops 2 as companion pieces for that game's ambitious and sprawling launch map, Transit. Transit was really the first open-world zombies map that we'd ever seen. It's made up of 5 major hub areas with tons of traveling time and smaller landmarks connecting the 5 locations. And I do fully believe that Transit fits into that category of open-world experience because from the moment that you leave the bus depot that you spawn in, you're free to go wherever you want. Transit's unique design of basically already being made up of what are essentially 5 mini zombies maps that are just connected by roads and other just traveling time, made it the perfect candidate to have these sections pulled out and made their own separate zombies maps you can play on their own. And this is how we got Call of Duty Zombies' first 3 survival maps. And one of the cool things is that each of these Black Ops 2 survival maps all replicate the general experience of one of the original 4 World at War Zombies maps. First up, we have Bus Depot, the most simple of the different survival maps. Bus Depot is supposed to play a lot like Nocturne Toten, the original Zombies map. Bus Depot only has a single door to open, 4 wall gun locations, and a singular mystery box location. There are no perks, no pack-a-punch, no nothing on this map. There are also no wonder weapons other than the ray gun and the ray gun Mark II if you have buried installed. So this is pretty much Black Ops 2 Zombies at the most bare bones that it can possibly get. Next is Farm, which is more similar to Verrückt and Shinonuma out of the original World at War lineup. Farm is bigger than Bus Depot, having several buildings on it and the outdoor area as opposed to Bus Depot, which just had the Bus Depot and then the area surrounding it. There's still a limited wall gun selection and only 1 mystery box location, but there are 4 perks on this map. Perk selection is made up of the original 4 perks. You have Quick Revive outside of the barn, Double Tap inside of the barn on the 2nd story, Speed Cola on the ground floor of the farmhouse, and Juggernog on the top floor of the farmhouse. For wonder weapons, you're still just limited to the ray gun and the ray gun Mark II. And lastly is Town, the largest of the on-disc survival maps. Out of all the World at War maps, this map shares the most in common with Derice, the final of the World at War maps. It's set at the intersection of a small town, and you've got several buildings to go into. You've got a bar, you've got a bank, and you've got a 2nd story loft over a storefront. There's a couple of guns on the wall to buy, including a Galvanknuckles wall buy inside of the bar. You've got 2 mystery box locations for the box to flip between. You've got 5 perks on solo, 6 in co-op, and a pack-a-punch machine. The 6 perks are Quick Revive in the 2nd story of the bar, Stamina Up outside of the bar, Speed Cola inside of the bank, Juggernog in the 2nd story loft over the storefront, Tombstone, which is only here in co-op, it's not here in solo, but on the side of the street leading back to where the back alley is, then Double Tap inside of that back alley, and then Pack-a-Punch is in the lava pit in the middle of the intersection. And as is typical with these survival maps, as I'm sure you can guess, there is no dedicated wonder weapon, there's just the 2 ray gun versions. These maps also have certain custom settings you can mess with to help make your games be more unique. You can start your game off on round 1, 5, 10, 15, or 20, and you'll also be given bonus starting points if you pick these higher round options that will get set up a bit to kind of make up for the fact that you're missing all those earlier rounds where you would make points. You can turn off Magic, which disables perks, the mystery box, power-ups, and Pack-a-Punch where all those are applicable, which makes the game a lot more difficult. You can turn on Headshots Only mode, which means zombies will only take damage when shot in the head, which is another one that makes the game a lot harder. And lastly, you can enable Hellhounds, which will add Hellhound rounds to your game. And they work the same as they always have in zombies, starting at round 6 or 7, and then every 5 or 6 rounds after that. You'll get a Hellhound round where it's just dogs, and you'll get a max ammo at the end of it. Nothing too crazy, but I do actually recommend usually playing with this one on, because that extra guaranteed max ammo every couple rounds can really come in clutch sometimes. Black Ops 2 would also receive one final survival map in the form of Nuketown Zombies, its Season Pass bonus map, and if the name doesn't give it away, it is a zombie map version of Black Ops 1's most iconic multiplayer map, Nuketown. I have to rate Nuketown Zombies pretty much on par with Town in terms of complexity, because whereas Nuketown only has 4 perks in Pack-a-Punch instead of the 6 perks in Pack-a-Punch that Town had, Nuketown Zombies has one other unique feature, randomized perks. There's quite a few mystery box locations, and even a rare gun in the box, the LSAT, which only appears on a couple maps in Black Ops 2. There's also the M27, an exclusive assault rifle that only appears on Nuketown. When it comes to wonder weapons, you've still just got the ray guns, but let's get back to the randomized perks, which that's kind of what this map's known for. For the uninitiated, the match starts with no perks and no Pack-a-Punch anywhere on the map. Every 5 rounds or so, a random perk machine or the Pack-a-Punch machine will fall from the sky to one of a bunch of random locations all over the map. The exception to this is that when you're playing on solo, the quick revive machine will spawn into the spawn room at the very beginning of the match, but aside from that, everything's random. You can also change all the same custom settings as all the other survival maps, with the exception of Hellhounds. There's no way to turn on Hellhound rounds on Nuketown. These 4 maps make a Black Ops 2 survival map roster, and I think overall they're a really good addition to the game's lineup of maps. I think these maps serve as a really good alternative to Transit, which is definitely a bit of an acquired taste of a map, to say the least. And honestly, I can confidently say that Town, in particular, is the most played map on Black Ops 2 Zombies. It's always the map with the highest player count out of any map on the game. I think the biggest thing that these maps have going for them is accessibility and convenience, because I think the only map out of this entire bunch that has any real setup whatsoever is Nuketown, and even there, you're just burning rounds waiting for the perks to drop. Power switches aren't even a feature on any of these maps, so that's another whole thing you don't have to worry about when you're starting up a game on these maps. There's also the fact that everyone who owns Black Ops 2 owns all of these maps, with the exception of Nuketown, but even there, it's only $5 or $6. Literally anyone can just jump into one of these maps and just get going. You don't have to really spend any time setting up, you don't have to spend any time learning how to play the maps by watching tutorials online. Anyone can play one of these maps and know what's going on. Compare this to Transit, which in comparison, it's like a Rubik's Cube. There's buildables you have to learn, it's got a more open, non-linear map style, which is very new for the series at the time. Even something as simple in most other maps as getting Pack-a-Punch open is way more complex than it has any right to be in Transit, which makes it very unapproachable for new players. And when I say these maps are accessible, I'm not saying that they're easy, because they're actually some of the hardest maps in the entirety of the Call of Duty Zombie series, because obviously Bus Depot is a very brutal map just because of how bare bones it is. Farm is difficult because it has no Pack-a-Punch, but the big thing that makes these maps hard is just the lack of a wonder weapon. Pretty much every map since even going back as far as Ruck has either had traps that always kill the zombies, or usually an infinite damage wonder weapon, or in some of the newer games just a health cap on the zombies after a certain round so that they're always killable. That simply just is not the case on these maps, and once the 2 ray guns crap out on you, which they eventually will, the rate of round progression slows down to a crawl. These maps have a super low skill barrier, which I think is great because anyone can pick up and play these maps, and it honestly makes them a really good entry point for Call of Duty Zombies. And while these weren't the first maps I played, these were the maps that really got me into zombies, particularly playing them at my cousin Eric's house split screen, which you might know him as Spartan Jr., he's been in a couple of my older gameplay videos. But these maps have a very high skill ceiling because you need to be very patient and endurant to hit the highest rounds possible, because, I'm just gonna be blunt here, you have a terrible arsenal at your hands. You know, once the ray guns crap out on you, you've got to just slog through those rounds. And I think on Town at least, the highest round ever reached is still round 100 flat, which for Call of Duty Zombies World Records, that's crazy low. As for the story of these maps, it's generally pretty bare, with the only real exception being Nuketown Zombies, which takes place alongside Moon, the finale map of Black Ops 1. They actually worked this into the map in a pretty cool way, because you can listen to dialogue from the Moon Easter egg next to this TV in the one house, and when you hit around 25, the zombies' eye colors will change from yellow to blue, signifying that Richtofen has swapped souls with Samantha and has taken control of the zombies in the MPD, and this kind of carries into the rest of the Broken Earth maps of Black Ops 2, where Richtofen is in control. So I think it's really cool to see this moment, which is a huge paradigm shift for the Call of Duty Zombies story from the eyes of relatively normal people. As for the other maps, they are set during the Broken Earth arc of Call of Duty Zombies, which is where the Earth has been thrown into an apocalypse after the events of Moon. As for the characters you play as, you will either be playing as the CIA, who are dressed in suits and sunglasses like the Men in Black, or the CDC, who wear these really cool hazmat suits. This is purely a cosmetic change, and it has no actual effect on gameplay, but I remember hearing when I was a kid, and this must have been back in 2nd or 3rd grade back when the game came out, that playing as a CDC actually gave you extra health because the hazmat suit gave extra padding, but that's just a playground rumor. None of these playable characters have any dialogue or any defined characteristics in general, they're just a bunch of blank slates to play as. These maps are also easier to add from a game design perspective, as they're almost entirely made up of reused content, with the only real changes being the new wall guns, perks, and Pack-a-Punch being added into the maps, but all those are reused anyways, those aren't new, and then also the roadblocks added on Bus Depot and Town to keep you from leaving the boundaries of the map. The obvious exception here is Nuketown, as it is using the Nuketown multiplayer map as a base for the map, but it's been massively overhauled to fit into Call of Duty Zombies. The map has been changed to have much more of a post-apocalyptic aesthetic. There's a huge mushroom cloud out in the distance, you've got ash and fallout raining like snow from the sky, you know, the whole map is filled with debris and other just hazards blocking your way. The zombie models on this map are completely unique, they're wearing hazmat suits and military uniforms and they're just covered in blisters and boils and whatnot. Nuketown is undoubtedly the survival map that took the most effort and time to develop, and it helps it stand out a lot as its own thing while also feeling very in line with the other Broken Earth maps tonally. For the Treyarch developed entries, this is all the survival maps that we ever got, but the survival map concept did make a surprise return in what I think is the most underappreciated Call of Duty Zombies game, World War II Zombies. Just like Black Ops 2, World War II Zombies also has 4 survival maps, and the first on the list is Groston House, which is just the game's cabin from the tutorial as a standalone survival map to play. This is actually the smallest Zombies map ever made, and it only has 4 or 5 small rooms depending on what you even want to qualify as a separate room, but there is an Easter egg you can do to unlock a hidden room with the mystery box that you can also do another Easter egg to pack-a-punch all the guns in that mystery box. So you still have access to all that. There's also Wonder Fizz and then 3 wall guns, but you have some very bare-bones stuff if you're not just doing the Easter egg to get the box and the pack-a-punch. This map is absolutely brutal, or at least it was originally. And for those who don't know, World War II Zombies, while it has its cast of 4 characters, also has optional unlockable characters you can play as, which you have to complete challenges to get them, and outside of a couple exceptions, these challenges are generally very, very difficult to pull off, so usually only the most diehard of players are going to have most of these characters. Groston House is one of these characters dedicated to it. In particular, it's the Blood Raven Mountaineer, who is supposed to be insanely difficult to get. There's 3 challenges you have to do, and the standout of them is reaching round 50 on this map, and then beating the boss zombie, who is a Brenner from the Final Reich, who will spawn in once you hit round 50. Once you kill him, you complete the challenge, then you do 2 other things that aren't as bad, and then you get the Blood Raven Mountaineer. Originally, this was a nearly impossible task that only the best of the best could pull off, but World War II, something that it did that a lot of Zombies games don't do, is it got lots of new guns added to its mystery box rotation as the DLC cycle went on, and a lot of these guns, especially from later on, are absolutely broken. This is because a lot of these guns get unique and powerful abilities once they're pack-a-punched, and as you know, you can get the pack-a-punch basically for free, because you don't have to pay any extra money to pack-a-punch any guns on this map. They'll just be pack-a-punched right out of the box. And the Delisle in particular, it's a sniper rifle that doesn't seem too crazy at first. You know, shooting at zombies, it does high damage, but it doesn't too crazy. But if you shoot at a wall or any other surface, your bullet will stick into the wall and will start glowing. It'll start yellow, then it'll turn red, and then it'll explode and shoot out, you know, bullets that can go through walls, and they'll headshot zombies instantly pretty much. Like, it is so broken. This one-shot zombies pretty much forever, it feels like. It one-shots the Whistlings, the mini-bosses on the map, and it does crazy damage on the Brenner, the final boss of the map. So nobody is safe from the wrath of the Delisle. So if you just camp inside of the mystery box room with the Delisle, you're pretty much safe. And this is something that gets easier in co-op, because you can have multiple people with the Delisle, or someone with the Delisle and just other people have other really strong weapons from the box, and you're basically untouchable. Like, I personally have beaten the Brenner in co-op several times just because of how easy it is to do. And the hardest part is honestly just waiting to get to round 50 because it takes a very long time when you're playing in co-op. The good thing though is that, of course, this is all optional. You don't have to pack-a-punch your guns. You can just keep the map as bare bones as you want if you really do want a challenge, which I think is good that they give you that option. It's as easy or as difficult of a map as you want it to be. The other 3 survival maps were added as part of World War II Zombies' polarizing 3rd DLC, The Tortured Path. And for anyone who is unaware, The Tortured Path is a very new take on zombies at the time, because there's actually 3 smaller maps that you play back to back to back in a linear fashion. You play 10 rounds on each map with objectives at round 3, 6, and 9, and a boss fight at the end. And granted, these rounds are longer and more difficult than like the first 10 rounds on a normal map. Round 10 here is more equivalent to like round 20 on any other map. But still, it's a very different take on zombies that a lot of people aren't a big fan of. The remaining 3 survival maps are just the 3 segments of the Tortured Path, chopped out, and you can play them as survival maps on their own, separate from one another. The 3 maps are Bodega Cervantes, a small Spanish farming village with a big windmill as its main landmark, USS Mount Olympus, which is a US naval warship passing through the Atlantic Ocean, and then Altar of Blood, which is an ancient temple hidden beneath the Antarctic ice. And I lump all of these maps together because they're pretty much all the same, just with different actual like aesthetics and map layout, because they all have the same perk selection. You unlock Pack-a-Punch the exact same way on all of them. They all have the same enemies. They're very much the same maps, just with different facelifts. You unlock Pack-a-Punch the exact same way on all 3 of these maps by charging up 3 Geistkraft batteries. The first can be charged up as soon as you start up the game, but you have to wait until round 5 to charge the second, and then round 10 to charge the third, and then after that Pack-a-Punch is open, and again, it's the exact same on each of these maps. These maps all have the exact same returning wonder weapons from previous maps, the Tesla gun and then the Ripsaw, and they all have an Easter egg you can do to unlock and obtain Barbarossa's sword if you've done the Tortured Path Easter egg, and this Easter egg is the exact same on each of these maps, where you have to drop jolts onto a set of 7 runes, I believe, and then you can get the sword, which I haven't done the Tortured Path Easter egg, so I can't do it for myself, but that's in every single one of these maps as well. USS Mount Olympus has some light environmental hazards because the boat rocks from side to side, and this causes stuff like this car on the top deck of the boat to, go from side to side with the ship, and this can block off your route, or it can even down you if you're not careful. But aside from this, these maps are pretty much all the same. Bodega of Cervantes is the most open of these maps, USS Mount Olympus is the most close quarters, and then Altar of Blood lies somewhere in between the two. These maps are serviceable, I guess, but they're my least favorite maps in World War II Zombies, and I just find them very underwhelming as a whole. So I do the World War II survival maps fall short, where the Black Ops 2 ones succeeded. I think the biggest thing here is that even though the World War II ones are more visually distinct from one another than the Black Ops 2 maps, each of the Black Ops 2 survival maps offered up a completely unique experience from one another. Pair that with the fact that the World War II maps are for the most part DLC locked, whereas Black Ops 2 was for the most part free on this content, and this just cuts down the accessibility and potential player count of these World War II survival maps immensely. And so to answer my big question, do survival maps even still have a place in Call of Duty Zombies? And honestly, no, I don't really think that they do. Black Ops 2 survival maps thrived because they released at a time where the mode was just getting more and more complex as it went on, and they were always a nice alternative for people to fall back on if they wanted something simple. World War II's maps serve a similar function, albeit much worse, as they're a luxury item you have to pay for instead of something complimentary provided with the rest of the game. But ever since Cold War Zombies, the mode has had a much more casual focused design philosophy, which there's nothing wrong with that. These games are much more hand-holding in their design. I mean, Cold War and Vanguard, you literally get waypoints on screen telling you where you need to go to progress the map. And in addition, Cold War is just one of the easiest zombies games in general, so having extra maps meant to be more easy to get into wouldn't make a whole lot of sense and would just kind of waste development time. And with the news that Black Ops 6 zombies will be returning to round-based after Vanguard and NW3's objective-based and DMZ-esque zombie modes respectively, this kind of begs the question of if these survival maps will have any place there. And the big question is, will Black Ops 6 Zombies be more difficult and complex of a zombies game than Cold War was? I'm willing to bet that it will be a bigger game than Cold War, but not quite to the degree where we would need survival maps as an alternative to the actual maps the game will be launching with, Terminus and Liberty Falls. And there's also just the fact that Transit and the Tortured Path are unique maps in the fact that they have separate segments like that could be so easily repurposed as their own mini-maps. Many of the maps that have come out since then just are not laid out like that. But with the mode just being so much more simple and easy to get a hold of nowadays than it used to be, I just don't think survival maps are necessary anymore. So while I'm getting very excited for Black Ops 6 based off what I've seen so far, I'm willing to bet that survival maps will not be coming back, and nor do they really need to. Thank you all so much for watching, and I know I kind of lied in my last video where I said my next Zombies video would be the Mob of the Dead versus Blood of the Dead video, but I just finished writing the script for that one, and it came out to just under 18,000 words, so that is going to be my biggest single video by far that I've made yet, and I'm really excited for it, but it's going to be a big video, so I'm going to try and make smaller videos until then, while I work on that kind of in the background. It's a big project. I'm also looking into getting a laptop to make videos on because if you don't know, I've been making all of these videos for the past almost a year at this point on my iPhone, which it works, quite well, I feel. I think I do a lot with what I have, but it's very limiting, especially for these bigger scale videos that I have in mind. Not just the Mob of the Dead video, but also 2 other projects I'm in the script writing stage of. So I'm going to wait until I get that laptop, which it's locked in that I'm getting one, so it's not like oh, maybe I won't, maybe I will. I'm getting the laptop, but I'm going to wait until I get that to really sit down and commit to getting the filming and doing the voiceover and all that for these bigger videos, because I want those videos to be as good as they can be, because those are my big passion projects I've been working on, really. So you can expect some shorter videos for the next few weeks while I'm working on that, or maybe even I will just dedicate all my time to making that video, but either way, that video is still coming. It's not like I canceled it or got too big. It's still coming. It's just going to take a bit longer than I was expecting. But as always, peace out and God bless. I've been Tactic Zombies, and I'll catch you next time.
Yeah. Cause I got it like that, flow so smooth like I got it on tap. Yeah, and I'ma say it be a good night while I'm on my Yingling, while I'm drinking Bud Light. Can you get it when you miss me?